Tonight, encampment raided.
We took the necessary actions that we felt we were responsible.
Why police took the extra step of obtaining a warrant in what's believed to be a Winnipeg first. Also tonight, officer cleared. What an independent report concluded about the fatal police shooting of a university student 2 years ago. Plus, leisure guide lament.
It would be nice to get an actual training.
Why is there such a shortage of swimming lesson spots for the upcoming season?
CTV News. Live from downtown Winnipeg with Marilee Caruso.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. It's a first for the Winnipeg Police Service. This afternoon, officers moved in on a riverside encampment, and in their hands, they had a search warrant. Standing by in studio tonight with the details is CTV's Catherine Dow. Catherine, what was this police bust all about?
Summarily, this was essentially a stolen property investigation rather than any type of effort to dismantle a homeless encampment. Police were looking for stolen goods and decided to get a judicial warrant before moving in.
I want to be clear that police are not here to clear or evict anyone from their temporary shelter.
It happened at a camp along Waterfront Drive near the intersection with George Avenue. This afternoon, police were hauling out numerous bicycles, some intact, some in pieces. We counted more than a dozen. Police say they entered a structure. They described it as having plywood walls covered with tarps. They arrested 3 people who were inside.
We took the necessary actions that we felt we were responsible under the courts and under our current laws in seeking judicial approval to execute a warrant on a structure that might indeed be somebody's temporary residence. And with that comes an expectation of privacy.
Police say they held the press conference to explain their presence in the area this afternoon and to let residents know there is no threat to public safety.
Okay, Catherine, let me get this straight. Police were treating this encampment on public land like they would someone's house?
That's right, Marilee. Police say the structures themselves aren't illegal and they can be considered a temporary residence under the law. And so police decided to err on the side of caution, and they got a judicial search warrant so that they're covered legally as they continue their investigation into that stolen property. Police say the 3 people arrested are free to return to the encampment if and when they're released. We should add the 3 have not yet been charged with any crime.
All right. Thanks for this, Catherine.
You're welcome.
Alberta's police watchdog has determined a Winnipeg officer was justified in the fatal shooting of a University of Manitoba student who was experiencing a mental health crisis 2 years ago. Investigators determined 19-year-old Afolabi Opaso posed a lethal threat to the officers who arrived at the apartment for a well-being check and found they didn't reasonably have time to flee or make use of a less lethal option. The officer's partner told investigators when they entered the apartment, Opaso was about 15 feet away and glaring at them while holding a knife in each hand. She said he didn't respond when asked what was going on and to drop the knives, and suddenly ran at them, which is when the other officer opened fire. The report concluded that version of events is consistent with other evidence, including a short cell phone video shot from another room. Opaso's roommates also told investigators he was behaving erratically, and they either saw or suspected he had knives when they phoned 911 for help. The officer who fired the shots exercised his right not to be interviewed for the investigation. A lawyer for Opaso's family, who is from Nigeria, tells us he is still speaking with the family and may have more to say next week. PC candidate Colleen Robbins is the next MLA for Spruce Woods. She won the by-election last night, holding off the NDP's Ray Bertholet. The normally safe Tory seat was clearly up for grabs as the race came down to the wire. CTV's Jeff Keel joins us now live with the results. So, Jeff, just how close was this?
Very close. Robbins edged out Bertholet by a mere 70 votes. Manitoba's progressive conservatives are celebrating a very narrow win.
A lot of people who predicted the PCs to win this election did not expect it to be that close, myself included.
On Tuesday night, Colleen Robbins won the Spruce Woods by-election, defeating her closest rival, NDP candidate Ray Berthollet. The mainly rural area, which takes in a portion of North Brandon, is a traditional PC seat.
Very exciting. A win is a win. I'm very excited for Colleen. I'm excited to have her voice in the chamber, representing the people of Spruce Woods.
Even though this is a Tory stronghold, the race was a nail-biter. Robbins garnered 2,805 votes, Berthollet 2,735 votes, a difference of only 70. Despite losing, the NDP campaign headquarters seemed more like a victory party.
This was the worst outcome they ever got by far.
PC leader Abhi Khan says the margin was tight because of the Premier's tactics. Canoe made several funding promises in the area prior to the election. Khan has alleged the Premier violated the blackout period rules by making an announcement last week, and he says the election call was delayed until harvest.
The Premier went out of his way to violate the rules. He went out of his way to manipulate the timeline by delaying this as long as he could.
But adjunct professor of political studies Chris Adams says the close race shows there is still high support for the NDP across the province, and Khan, a Winnipeg MLA, has more to do to shore up support in rural Manitoba, where the PCs normally flourish.
Well, it says that the PCs have work to do. They have work to do to rebuild their rural base, and that should be a safe area for them.
Liberal candidate Stephen Reid finished a distant third with 444 votes.
Jeff, because this was such a close race, does it mean the NDP could turn Spruce Woods orange in a general election?
Chris Adams isn't so sure about that. He says by-elections are different. They're an odd duck. There's some experimental voting going on at times. So he does expect the PCs to do better in the next general election. But he does point out voter turnout for the by-election was just over 40%. Pretty high for a by-election, especially in late summer, Marilee.
All right. Thanks for this, Jeff. Well, if you had trouble signing up for city swimming lessons this week, you are not alone. Most of the spots available through Winnipeg's Fall Leisure Guide were filled within hours of registration opening yesterday morning. Now, the city says it's dealing with a supply and demand issue, with recent pool closures making the matter worse. CTV's Danton Unger explains.
Full, 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 cancelled, full, full, full.
This is what Ryan Palmquist found on the city's Leisure Guide website at 8 a.m. on Tuesday morning as he tried to register one of his kids for swimming lessons. He says he wasn't able to get a spot.
I mean, not surprised. This is the same experience I've had again and again and again.
The city says within 4 hours of registration opening Tuesday morning, 87% of swimming lessons for the fall season were full.
Obviously, the main problem is that there's more demand than there is supply of lessons, way more.
According to the city's website, 3 of the 11 city-owned indoor pools are currently closed. Bonnie Vittel is undergoing renovations along with the St. James Civic Center. The Transcona Kinsman Centennial Pool is also closed, though it's set to reopen in early September. And more pool closures are on the way. The city notes the Elmwood Kildonans pool and the pool at the Cindy Clausen Rec Complex will be closed most of September for maintenance. Not to mention, the University of Manitoba's pool was forced to close in the spring, displacing the teams and clubs that swam there. A spokesperson for the mayor's office tells CTV News in a statement, with the University of Manitoba pool closed, there are fewer options, and that's putting more pressure on city programs. Adding, we know how important these programs are and will keep working to expand access. That work includes a proposed indoor pool in Transcona, but the city notes construction isn't estimated to begin until 2028 to 2030. For Palmquist, he says this year, his family will have to fend for themselves.
I guess we're just going to go to the public swim and try to teach our kids as best we can ourselves.
Danton Unger, CTV News, Winnipeg.
As of today, 88% of fall swimming lessons are full, with registration for non-residents not opening until tomorrow morning. The city says more fall swimming classes may be added as new instructors are brought on board. So the city is encouraging residents to keep checking the Leisure Guide online. Winnipeg has the highest proportion of workers commuting to work in Canada, according to a new report from Statistics Canada. StatsCan data shows 9 in 10 Winnipeg workers regularly commute to work. That's the highest proportion among major Canadian cities. Still, most commuters drive, but the report shows more Winnipeggers are taking public transit, with just over 11% using the bus and about 6% using active transportation such as biking or walking to get to work. That's the highest level since the pandemic, according to the City of Winnipeg. Also, Winnipeg commuters spend less time in their cars compared to most Canadians. The average Winnipeg commute time is about 23.5 minutes, which is 3 minutes less than the Canadian average. Well, riding a bike or taking a walk doesn't sound too bad tonight, Colleen Brady.
No.
Temperature is great out there tonight.
Pretty darn pleasant out there tonight, Marilee. It's been another beautiful day. Lots of sunshine. Temperatures warm into the mid, even upper 20s. Brandon clocked in at 29 for a high temperature. Dauphin right behind at 28. Here in Winnipeg, 27 degrees, our highest temperature of the day out at the Forks. And we'll see these pleasant conditions really continue right through the Labor Day long weekend. Not much excitement in the way of weather. That's how we like it. But there is a non-severe thunderstorm that's continuing to make its way just to the southeast of Lac du Bonnie. We had a thunderstorm move through the Kenora area, and then another non-severe thunderstorm just out over the Sioux Lookout area. That's about it for any kind of weather of note tonight. It'll be pretty clear in most areas. I'll have a look at your forecast for tonight and a look at the rest of the week, of course, the Labor Day long weekend as well. Let's take a look right now through the Bath Fitter Live Eye. Bath Fitter, your bath and shower experts for more than 40 years. In Winnipeg right now, it is 26 degrees with a humid X. It feels like 30. Winds out of the northeast at 15 kilometers an hour. The pressure's rising. And the humidity right now, Marilee, is 53%.
Thanks, Colleen. Manitoba's Ethics Commissioner says Premier Wab Kinew did nothing wrong when he flew to Grey Cup games on airplanes chartered by the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Opposition Conservatives called for the investigation in March, claiming Kinew violated the Conflict of Interest Act when he accepted an invitation to fly to the Grey Cup game with the team in 2023 and 2024. However, in a report released today, the Provincial Ethics Commissioner says Wab Kinew paid fair market value for the flights out of his own pocket, so he wasn't required to obtain prior approval or file information afterwards. Manitoba's chief medical examiner has ordered inquests into the deaths of 2 men while incarcerated. Tyson Dumas and Nathan Oatke were found in their cells at the Paw Correctional Center and Stony Mountain, respectively, after they were assaulted in 2022. Inquests are not to lay blame, but they can offer recommendations to prevent similar deaths. A third inquest is related to the death of a 22-year-old man who was fatally shot following an altercation with RCMP that same year. Details about when the inquest will take place will be announced at a later date. 2 new measles exposure sites in Manitoba to tell you about tonight, and both are in the Pembina Valley. The first was at C.W. Weeb Medical Center in Winkler, August 21st from 8:45 to 11:30 a.m. The other is at Focal Point Comprehensive Vision Care in Morden, also on August 21st from 4 to 10 p.m. Now, if you were at either of these places during those times, the province is advising you to monitor for symptoms until September 21st and check your immunization records. Measles symptoms usually appear within 7 to 21 days after exposure and may include fever, runny nose, drowsiness, red eyes, and small white spots inside the mouth. There have been 177 confirmed cases and 11 probable cases of measles in Manitoba this year. An emotional homecoming tonight for a Manitoban who's been gone from our province for 5 decades. Jonathan Hooker grew up on Moose Lake First Nation, but was taken from his family in the 1970s as part of the Sixties Scoop. He was adopted by a family in New Zealand. CTV's Joseph Bernacki has the story of his journey home.
It was a whirlwind of emotion for Jonathan Hooker upon his return to the province where he was born.
It's the first time I've actually laid eyes on my mother. It's all a bit overwhelming to be here today, so yeah, it's pretty cool.
It was a return 5 decades in the making. Hooker was taken from his birth family in Moose Lake First Nation in 1975. At the time, the 18-month-old child was one of an estimated 30,000 Indigenous children taken from their homes in what has become known as the Sixties Scoop. Hooker was adopted by a family in New Zealand and hasn't returned to the province until now.
I didn't know anything about the Sixties Scoop until probably about 5 years ago, and then I've only really, in the last year or so, really learned actually how it all played out. And yeah, it's been a bit of a been a journey, all right.
At Winnipeg's airport, Hooker's return was an opportunity to reunite with his birth mother and extended family from northern Manitoba. Hooker will return to Moose Lake First Nation for a 3-week stay. His long way home began with a discovery from a simple ancestry test gifted by his mother-in-law. Watching him arrive in the terminal, Hooker's mother was overcome with emotion.
I'm happy to see my son. I thought I would never see him again. He was only 2 months old when they took him away from me.
Sixties Scoop advocate Colleen Rajat says Hooker's return shows more effort is needed to reunite the thousands of Indigenous families that were separated years ago.
Many people don't realize that up to 3,000 of our children were sent out of Canada and around the world, and we need to make sure that every one of those children can come back home.
For Hooker, he's hopeful his story will be an inspiration to others looking for answers about their own past.
Hopefully somebody else again will see this and hopefully maybe start looking for their family or give them clues to reach out and help.
Joseph Bernacki, CTV News, Winnipeg.
Hooker's sister was also taken from her home. He met her in Texas last year after they were able to reconnect online. A Manitoba man missing for weeks has been found dead. 37-year-old Jeffrey Kolomea from Pimicikamak Cree Nation was last seen in the community August 10th. Today, RCMP announced his body was recovered from a marshy area near Cross Lake. The investigation into Kolomea's death continues, pending the results of an autopsy. Well, vehicles still can't travel over the Arlington Bridge, but tonight there is a huge truck parked right in front of it. As you can see, crews are currently working on the bridge with a large drill. The city tells us it's part of the preliminary design work for the new bridge. The current Arlington Bridge closed indefinitely in November of 2023 due to structural concerns. Winnipeg's 2025 budget included $22 million to decommission the bridge and another $5 million for design work on the new bridge. Another headache tonight for small businesses.
It would have an immediate impact.
If you regularly ship products stateside, stick around. Things are about to get a bit more complicated. Plus, only days into the first week of the school year in the U.S., another devastating mass shooting. Those details when we return. As cold weather pushes in the months ahead and the relationship with the U.S. still frosty, it appears many Canadian snowbirds may not be in a hurry to head south. A new Royal LePage survey finds 54% of Canadians who own a home in the U.S. are considering selling it within the next year. More than 60% of them say it's because of the political climate. 32% say they'll buy Canadian instead and reinvest the proceeds domestically. Turning to the markets now, crude oil gained 90 cents. The dollar is up slightly to 72.35 cents U.S. Gold jumped $15. The TSX added 93 points. The Dow Jones climbed 147 points, while the Nasdaq finished the day 45 points higher. The Prime Minister wrapped up his trip to Europe with a visit to Canadian soldiers stationed in Latvia, our largest overseas mission. Mark Carney offered up a message of gratitude after promising new military investment. CTV's Abigail Beeman reports.
Inside a field ambulance, up close with tanks, Prime Minister Mark Carney talked to dozens of Canadian troops to learn what they do, and he heard what they need.
And you see how important, for lack of a better term, drones are in the Ukraine fight. We are watching, studying, understanding how that fight is there, but we need those pieces of equipment here in Latvia.
Drone operator Wayne Fraser says modernization would help too, right down to his tactical vest.
It is a little outdated. There's no modular capability with it, which can be a little bit impeding.
We're also, back home, creating a new defense procurement agency so we can build at pace. So the women and men of the armed forces have cutting-edge military equipment that they need and deserve.
About 200 kilometers from the Russian border, the Prime Minister announced a 3-year extension of Operation Reassurance, saying, unfortunately, the need for the Canadian-led NATO mission here has only intensified. Carney didn't take questions. His defense minister pushed on whether Canadian troops in Ukraine was a possibility, regardless of a ceasefire.
These conversations are continuing. Obviously, the United States has an important role to play. So we'll see.
Latvia was the last stop on a 4-country European tour for the Prime Minister, who told Canadian troops here in Latvia what he told Ukrainians in Kyiv, that the strategy for Russia needs to be deter and fortify. Abigail Beeman, CTV News, Camp Adige, Latvia.
In the U.S., it's the first week of school and already a mass shooting. 2 children are dead and 17 others, mostly children, are injured at a Catholic school in Minneapolis. The gunman opened fire through the windows, then took his own life. Rena Roy reports.
A horrific first week of school in South Minneapolis. A gunman shooting through the stained glass windows of this Catholic church as dozens of children attended morning mass before classes at Annunciation Catholic School.
Possible active shooter 509 West 54th Street, Minneapolis.
Police say the gunman was armed with a shotgun, rifle, and pistol and fired from all 3 weapons just before 8:30 a.m. Police say the shooter died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound.
That coward has been identified as 23-year-old Robin Westman. No prior criminal history.
At least 2 young children killed, just 8 and 10 years old.
It was like right beside me. I was like 2 seats away from the stained glass windows. So they were like, the shots were like right next to me. My friend got hit in the back.
Did he go to the hospital?
Yeah, he went to the hospital.
17 others, mostly children, were hurt, 2 of them in critical condition.
These kids were literally praying. They should be able to go to school or church in peace without the fear or risk of violence.
Parents rushing to the school.
I just saw the kids exiting, so it's almost like a little parade of kids. I'm like just yelling at my daughter's name.
And I heard something like really loud, like I thought it was fireworks in the church. And then I saw the shooting. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so scared.
Emily Feste's niece and nephew go to the school, and her husband is a firefighter who jumped into action when the calls came in.
He just took off on foot. It's so awful and it's so scary. And I just am really proud of my husband and my brother-in-law for just running into the danger.
Sources familiar with the matter tell ABC News investigators are looking at social media accounts believed to be associated with the shooter. Now, the FBI, DHS, and ATF are all responding as they work to figure out a possible motive behind this devastating attack. Rena Roy, ABC News, New York.
As if Donald Trump's tariffs aren't inflicting enough pain, now small business owners who've built their businesses on being able to ship to American customers free from customs charges are bracing for higher costs. In 2 days, the U.S. is ending the exclusion from shipping fees. It's called the de minimis exemption. CTV's Rachel Aiello on what it is and what it means for those in the line of fire.
So we'll do a CUSMA form for these.
The United States is scrapping its tariff exemption on parcels worth $800 US or less. It means starting Friday, all of those U.S.-bound shipments will be hit with duties.
It would have an immediate impact. The antique parts of our business are a substantial part of what we do. We've seen that business growing over the years, especially down into the U.S.
Many small shop owners like David Pelkey are facing a tough choice: absorb or pass on the cost, cut off a key market, or go through the complex process of becoming CUSMA compliant.
This is going to have implications for a lot of Canadian businesses, and it's coming at a time where you don't necessarily have a lot of resilience in the small business sector.
But U.S. President Donald Trump dumping de minimis is also set to cost American consumers and could result in big headaches for border agents.
It was there for a reason.
Millions of duty-free packages enter the U.S. daily. But with this change looming, postal operators in at least 25 countries are suspending U.S. shipping, citing the lack of clarity around enforcement. Canada Post is not one of them. Instead, they'll be using a third-party program to collect and send the duties directly to U.S. Customs. The Crown Corporation said the duty will be equal to the tariff rate of a product's country of origin. For Canada, the current rate is 35% for most goods.
A key caveat to take note of: Canada Post flagged to us today that documents and gifts valued under $100 US sent from Canadians, not businesses, will be exempt. Rachel Aiello, CTV News, Ottawa.
And that decision to end the exemption is already having an impact here at home.
In the absence of a very clear idea of both the cost and how to actually do it, we've decided to pause all shipping to the United States. So as of Monday of this week, we're no longer taking orders from our American customers and friends.
That's Anna Hunter, co-owner of Longway Homestead near St. Anne. She raises sheep and processes the wool, which is then sold across Canada and the U.S. She estimates roughly 40% of her products are sent stateside. The Canadian Federation of Independent Business says many small business owners are now facing similar headaches.
You know, going forward, 30% say they anticipate they'll be impacted either directly or indirectly by this change. But another 33% say it's too early to tell and they're not sure. And that's very alarming, right? That means there's so much uncertainty in the air, and it makes it really difficult for businesses to plan. You know, are we going to have to raise our prices, or will we be able to absorb these costs?
The CFIB says it's pushing Ottawa to share the tariff revenue it collects from the trade dispute with small businesses to help soften the blow. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre says temporary foreign workers are taking jobs from young Canadians as youth employment remains high.
As our young people have a quarter-century high in their unemployment, Mark Carney is expected to bring in a record number of temporary foreign workers to take the jobs of Canadian youth, driving down our kids' wages and their ability to earn a living.
The federal government says 119,000 temporary foreign workers came to Canada in the first half of the year, down from 245,000 a year earlier. Air Canada flight attendants have started voting on the new contract reached after a 3-day strike. The proposed deal offers up to a 20% pay increase with payment for 1 hour of work before a flight takes off. But some observers say even with the salary increase, entry-level flight attendants still won't make a livable wage in big cities. Union members have until September 6th to vote. In Spain, it was time for the annual La Tomatina Festival. It takes place every year in a small town near Valencia. This looks like fun, doesn't it? The streets were full of people, tomatoes and juice. 22,000 people packed the town center in a tradition that dates back to 1945. That's when a fight broke out in the town with local villagers throwing tomatoes at each other. All in fun these days. All right, still to come tonight, how safe are Manitoba school zones?
Speeding, drivers blocking school bus zone.
How many parents say they've witnessed unsafe driving and what you can do to protect your kids? Just ahead.
And if you have the chance to turn your long weekend into an extra long weekend starting Friday, it will be a nice day. 28 degrees in the sunshine. Saturday, sunny up to 29, even sunnier Sunday, 29 degrees again. Now, Monday, of course, is Labor Day. There's a mix of sun and cloud expected, a low risk of thunderstorms, but it's also the first day of September, which means it's the first day of meteorological fall, and it will be a warm start, 27 degrees, 20 on Tuesday, rain showers likely. We could even see a thunderstorm, too.
Have a news tip? When you see news happening, let CTV News Winnipeg know. Text your tips, pictures, and videos to 10400. That's 10400. Message and data rates may apply.
Most Manitoba parents say their children's school zones are unsafe. That's according to results of a new survey released by CAA Manitoba just days before kids head back to school. CAA says the survey found 90% of Manitoba parents report dangerous driving behaviors in school zones. They cited speeding, drivers blocking school bus lanes, and distracted driving. The study also found because of safety concerns, 43% of parents chose to drive their kids to school. The problem with that, well, it only increases traffic congestion around schools. CAA instead makes this suggestion.
Find a safe drop-off spot that's maybe a block or two away from the school. This could be a family drop-off spot where routinely you will be picked up and dropped off there. This is a great and a small thing that you can do that will have a real impact.
The survey found most parents support greater safety controls in school zones, including lower speed limits, enhanced infrastructure, and improved enforcement and education. A Winnipeg veteran is working to help his fallen brothers and sisters in arms. Peter Martin is trying to ensure every veteran has a grave marker.
Well, it's obvious they should have a marker. But no, we found 2 graves that were identified as grave number 190 and 301 with no marker.
Now Martin is trying to help another veteran. Here at Transcona Cemetery, James Bernard McQuaid's grave only had a number on it. Martin was able to get a cross and a temporary plaque for it, but before he puts a permanent grave marker on the plot, he wants to find McQuaid's family, and for that, he needs help.
I need to find the family members, whoever families who connected to Mr. McQuaid, to say, we're doing something to honor your relative. And if you're around, I'll make sure you're included in a mini ceremony once we get the gravestone, the headstone. And if you're not around, I'll at least send you pictures and videos of what we do.
Now, Martin has heard James Bernard McQuaid could have a son in Chilliwack. Anyone who knows family members are asked to contact Peter Martin through Facebook, or you can send an email to us here at winnipegnews@ctv.ca.
CTV Skywatch weather brought to you by South Beach Casino and Resort. Visit southbeachcasino.ca.
Colleen Brady back now with your complete Skywatch forecast. Long weekend almost here, and it is looking great.
Yes, summer is hanging on right to the end of August and then some into September with those hot temperatures close to 30. We came close to 30 in some parts of southern Manitoba today. Brandon in particular up to 29 there. I mentioned here at the Forks in Winnipeg 27 degrees. Some pretty warm temperatures ahead tomorrow in northern Manitoba as well. But I just want to point this out. We have still these just this cluster of non-severe thunderstorms making their way south through the White Shell area. A little further to the east, Kenora had thunderstorms moving through that community in the 4 and 5 o'clock hour. Those continue to push further south. But that's it for active weather tonight. Now, there's still the risk of thunderstorms in northwestern Ontario yet this evening. But aside from that, you may see some fog develop overnight. We may well see some fog in parts of the south as well. We have that upper ridge of high pressure pretty much parked over western Canada, keeping the sky clear. The winds are light, and with just enough moisture at the surface, that's where we could see some fog develop in some areas. Not really expecting it here in Winnipeg, though. But the rest of the night, pretty clear all across Manitoba, east into northwestern Ontario. Into tomorrow morning, much the same. Still quite sunny, still very warm. And late in the afternoon, there is the possibility of showers. There's a low chance, sort of sporadically, particularly around places like Dauphin and Swan River. You can't rule out an afternoon thunderstorm in those areas. By the time we get to late tomorrow night, overnight into Friday, again, not much change, still very stable weather conditions continuing over our region, taking us right through into Friday. For tonight for Winnipeg, mostly clear and overnight low of 13 degrees. Light winds out of the east at 10 kilometers an hour, shifting coming out of the southeast for the commute tomorrow, but not strengthening. Mostly sunny, 15 degrees in the morning, up to 26 in the afternoon. More of a mix of sun and cloud. The winds strengthen a little bit, up to 20 kilometers an hour. Still from the east, which is somewhat unusual, not entirely out of the question, though. The UV index for Thursday for the city is 6 or high. Up in the northeast tonight, clear. Overnight lows 7, 8, 9 degrees, even over into Thompson there, 9 overnight in that city. Sunny in Thompson tomorrow, 25 degrees. Sunshine all across the northeast. Highs of 23 and 24 in the northwest tonight. Just a few clouds over Lynn Lake and Norway House Cree Nation. 13 overnight Lynn Lake. Now, Flin Flon in the Paw, clear, 14 overnight there. Mix of sun and cloud around the region, but check out these temperatures. 27, 28 degrees for most areas. Norway House, 25 tomorrow. Brandon in the southeast, pretty clear tonight, light winds, so there is the expectation of fog developing overnight. Overnight lows around 11, 12 degrees around the region. Mix of sun and cloud tomorrow. Again, there's that chance popping up of showers for Dauphin and Swan River. 26 and 27 there. Neepawa and Brandon up to 28 degrees, so another hot day tomorrow. Winnipeg in the southeast, our best bet for fog popping up is over Portage, Morden, Winkler, and Steinbach. Otherwise, pretty clear tonight. Winnipeg and the rest of the region, 12, 13 degrees. A little cooler to the east and in northwestern Ontario. Fog expected overnight. Overnight lows, a bit of a range between 7 and 12 degrees. Really bright and sunny and dried, and not so much for Fort Frances, but more consistent temperatures, 22, 23 degrees. Our first weather photo takes us to the Interlake up in Arborg. That lovely photo is from Janine. Now, Edna says it was the first day of harvest near Swan Lake. That's northeast of Pilot Mound. Great shot there, too. Send us your weather photos to winnipegweather@ctv.ca.
They're as popular as ever, but are performance-enhancing substances safe for young people? Hear what the experts have to say next in Medical Watch. As students head back to class, a record number are expected to have to access school food programs. Inflation and tariffs are leading to sky-high grocery prices, putting pressure on a growing number of families. Joining me now to talk more about the demand is Paul Lethbridge with Breakfast Club of Canada. Paul, good to speak with you.
Nice to speak with you.
First, maybe just give us an idea of how great the need is here in Manitoba. How many kids do we expect will be heading to school this fall on an empty stomach?
Well, we've been we're a national organization and we support schools right across the country, but in Manitoba alone, there's approximately 17,000 children requiring a morning breakfast every morning. And that's at about 85 programs across the province. So the need is quite substantial, and we're really working to close the gap because there are more kids right across the country who still don't have access to a nutritious morning meal.
As that need grows, what kind of pressure does it put on organizations like yours to meet it?
Well, you know, it's really, for a number of years, we would fundraise and then open new programs every year. But in the last number of years, we haven't been able to open new programs, but only sustain the existing programs because the cost of food is higher, so we need to transfer more money to the schools. But also, you know, there's more kids that require help from Breakfast Club of Canada because there's more and more kids coming from food insecure homes at this point. So it's been there's been a lot of pressure on us. We do have a tremendous support in our community of donors, but we want to close the gap. We want to make sure no child is left without a breakfast in the morning.
Here in Manitoba, our province has signed on to Ottawa's Universal Food Program, so people might be surprised to learn that your organization is still needed.
Yeah, and you know, the National School Food Program is a great program, and we're really excited. We did a lot of the advocacy work with the government to help bring that on, but the reality is it still doesn't meet the need, and because it is government funding, it takes a while for it to flow through provinces. So you know, many schools still aren't seeing that funding yet, and we want to make sure that every child going to school this year has access to school. The other important thing to remember about that funding is it is a nutrition program, so it's funding meals throughout the day, whether it's breakfast, snack, or lunch. We focus entirely on the morning meal because it is the spark that ignites learning for kids. So we really want to make sure that those nutritious morning meals are offered to kids, and the funding that we provide will enable that to keep going even with the government funding flowing.
Let's talk a bit about how essential breakfast is when it comes to learning.
Yeah, it's a really big benefit for a child, and it's more than just putting nutritious food in their bellies. It helps with attendance through a lot of our research and data that we get from the schools we support. When there is a breakfast program that's active, attendance in schools goes way up. It helps with behavior, and it helps with a sense of belonging from a child's, from a mental health perspective. When a child has access to a breakfast and they feel like other kids in their school, it has a positive impact on their mental health. And it also just gives them access to more nutritious foods, and the education around what's nutritious food and how to prepare them is better for them as they go through the school system.
You can donate to the Breakfast Club of Canada on its website or by texting Club 20222. Paul, thanks so much for your time tonight. It was great speaking with you.
It was really nice to speak to you. Thank you.
If you bought some dining room furniture from The Brick in the past couple of years, you'll want to listen up. Health Canada has published a recall for Lars branded furniture due to excessive levels of lead. The products include a counter chair, wood countertop, and metal-based tabletop center glass insert, as well as a counter table. All were sold between June 2023 and July of this year and came individually or as a 5 to 7 piece set. Health Canada says black coating on the product's legs and metal base contained an excessive amount of lead. As of August 15th, there have been no reports or incidents of injuries in Canada due to the products. Researchers say pediatricians, family doctors, and parents need to learn about what kind of performance-enhancing substances kids are using when they work out or play sports. Nearly a fifth of Canadian pediatric specialists surveyed say they saw adolescents who needed medical attention due to dietary supplements or performance drugs over the previous year. The majority of the cases were boys, and more than half of them were between 13 and 15 years old. Researchers say the use of whey protein, creatine, and pre-workout mixes, as well as illegal drugs such as anabolic steroids, have been on the rise. While it may not be possible to stop all adolescents from using supplements, researchers suggest healthcare providers and parents need to ensure they're using them as safely as possible and getting the products from reputable sources.
Medical Watch is brought to you by Manuka and Koster Denture Clinic.
Hi there, my little droogies.
He played one of the more unsettling characters from a classic Kubrick film, and you can meet him at this year's Comic-Con. Plus, some truly once-in-a-lifetime prizes up for grabs in this year's Assiniboine Park Conservancy auction. All those details next in Spotlight.
Spotlight, sponsored by the Casinos of Winnipeg, presenting Tom Papa.
How would you like to go on a 12-day African safari or to the Winnipeg Jets home opener? Those are just some of the amazing experiences up for grabs during the Assiniboine Park Conservancy's 6th annual online auction. Auction proceeds support the care and maintenance of Assiniboine Park. It's your chance to bid on more than 80 unique prizes and once-in-a-lifetime experiences, including a Tanzanian safari adventure, romantic dinners for two, plus Jets, Sea Bears, and Grey Cup tickets. Bidding open today and runs until the evening of September 3rd. Access the online auction by visiting AssiniboineParkAuction.ca. Comic-Con fans are in for a treat, especially if you're in the mood for a little of the old ultra-violence.
This would sharpen you up and make you ready for a bit of the old ultra-violence.
Malcolm McDowell, best known for his role as the miscreant Alex in A Clockwork Orange, is joining this year's lineup, along with John Kassir, the voice of the Crypt Keeper, and dozens of other characters from animated shows. They're joining previously announced talents such as Ron Perlman, Lou Diamond Phillips, wrestling legend Sting, and many more. Winnipeg Comic-Con runs October 24th to 26th at the RBC Convention Center. Reams of unseen Terry Fox footage will be showcased in a new documentary about the Canadian hero.
He's kind of enshrined in all these statues in this gritty, giving it all running moment. But there's all these other little moments where he's being a regular 21-year-old. And so to see that captured on film and to be able to find all of these audio interviews that the world has never heard before, I think that was the most special part.
Toronto filmmaker Sean Menard says he pulled from more than 90 reels of restored and mostly never-before-seen footage for Run, Terry, Run. He says it draws on hours of film taken by a crew who accompanied Fox on his Marathon of Hope and shows a more personal side, rarely seen in news coverage. The film is set for release later this year. Your primetime lineup begins tonight at 7 with MasterChef. At 8, Gordon Ramsay's Secret Service. And then at 9, catch the Battle of the Generations. And at 10, laugh along with Match Game.
The Blue Bombers are ready to rumble in this weekend's Labor Day Classic, but first, they're razzing Rider fans. We'll show you how just ahead.
Women's clothing provided by RW & Company. Salon services provided by S&T Spa Salon.
26 degrees in Winnipeg right now. It's still sunny. Winds out of the northeast at 15 kilometers an hour with the Humidex. it feels like 30. Highest temperature today in the city was 27. Not nearly a record. That goes back to 1984 on this day when we reached 36 degrees in Winnipeg. Tonight we drop down to 13, mostly clear. Sunny in the morning tomorrow. Thursday, mix of sun and cloud in the afternoon, 26. Sunshine on Friday, 28. Then the long weekend, mostly sunny Saturday, 29 degrees. Even sunnier Sunday, merrily. Another hot high of 29. 27 on Labor Day. There is the risk of thunderstorms, otherwise a mix of sun and cloud. Tuesday, a different story, just 20 degrees with the good chance of some rain showers coming through.
Thanks, Colleen. An old rivalry will play out again this weekend in Saskatchewan. The Rough Riders are hosting the Blue Bombers in the Labor Day Classic. And ahead of that matchup, the Bombers are poking a little fun at the host city. Check out these billboards. There's a handful of them like this that have gone up in Regina. They say friends don't let friends wear green, alongside images of Blue Bomber fans celebrating and a Green Riders fan who looks like he might be feeling a bit stressed. Below the cheeky message says, "This is a public service message from the Winnipeg Blue Bombers."
Indeed, it is.
I like it. I like what they're doing there.
Yes. It's important to inform the public of these matters.
That's right. And yeah, friends don't let friends wear green. This is true. Go Bombers this weekend.
Go Bombers.
That does it for us tonight, though. Have a great weekend.
Good night.
I guess it's only Wednesday. It's not the weekend yet. I am off, though, the next 2 days, so it's my weekend. Sorry to confuse all of you that still have to work.